Bonsoir tout le monde. J'espère que vous allez bien. For those of you that don't speak freedom fries, that is, of course, French for hello, and I hope that all of you are doing well. So, tonight is the second installment of my series, Let's Talk The Arts Come to Life. Hello, Lashish Journey. Thank you for being here. I hope this is going to be interesting. It's going to be relatively short, live, Lashish, but hopefully interesting and educative. Hopefully. So, if you have any questions, Lashes, please let me know. Don't hesitate to go ahead and put that in the chat. So, today is going to be about contemporary art, particularly the Contemporary Pavilion at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. Hopefully, you get a chance to go ahead and see, and visit that museum if ever you do decide to visit my small little hometown of Montreal from all the way from Florida. I forgot exactly what city you're in. I know you're not in Miami, but I know you're in Florida. And hopefully one day when it's not too cold, you're going to come over and I get to be your personal tour guide to the museum. So, yeah, so we'll get started. Okay. Like I said, it's not going to be a very long, live stream, but hopefully a very interesting one. Hello, Shakila's World. Thank you for being here. I think this is the first time I'm seeing you here, so hopefully you're going to enjoy what I'm going to present to you. So, like I was telling Lashes, today we're going to be talking about contemporary art, particularly the Contemporary Art Pavilion at Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. This is my second installment of Let's Talk The Arts Come to Life. Now, my first one was about Kent Monkman, who's a Canadian artist. That one is technically still available on YouTube on my channel. However, you do have to be 18 or older to view it because there's a certain amount of, let's just say, adult content. So if you're not too shy, I do recommend watching that episode. I think it's interesting, but viewer discretion be advised. Okay. So in this episode, we will also be talking about or presenting a couple of the works of Kent Monkman, but this time it'll be a little bit more decent, essentially. So don't worry, there's not going to be anything too inappropriate in the episode. This one I want to make it more general and available to anybody and everybody. So we're gonna go ahead and start. So of course, we're going to have to describe what contemporary art is. Hello, blind guy, his wife, their life. I'm so glad that you're here. Hello, Kurt Russell. I know who you are, but hello. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Let's see what everybody is saying. Of course, Lashes is saying hi. And also our new friend to the family, Shakila's World. And of course, Blind Guy, his wife, listening, hoping you're warm and dry in Montreal snow. Yes, it did start snowing today. No, no. But hey, I'm used to it. I was born and raised in Montreal, so of course I expect the snow. C'est la vie. That's life. So now you guys know a little bit more French. C'est la vie. That's life. Okay, so practice that, and hopefully, I hear you guys say. But if not, hopefully you at least remember it. And yes, of course, Kurt Russell. We all have to represent, support each other. And again, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate any amount of support that you guys can give me, whether it's here, just simply having the tab open in the back, whether it's in the chat, chatting it up, or coming up on the panel whenever it is open, etc. Any amount of help is good help as far as I'm concerned, or having your alter egos come in and participate as well. I'm all for it. I'm all down for it. I have no problems with any of it. So we're going to go ahead and start talking a little bit about, about contemporary art. And don't worry, Lashes, I get the busy life. Again, if the only thing you can do support me is to have me playing in the background, don't worry, I get it. You have 5 kids. You're a mother of a young baby that's what, 3, 4 months old. So don't worry. I understand you know, if I'm not the priority. It's okay. I take no offense to it. We're all busy. We all have our life. So don't worry. As long as you're here and you're supporting me, that's all I care about. All right. So it's the third time I say that we're going to get started, but this time I'm serious. We're going to get started. And of course, we're going to have to get started on defining what contemporary art is, right? Because we hear that word a lot of, oh, contemporary art. I like it. I love it. I think it's horrible. Oh, I don't understand it, whatever it is. So we're going to go to our BFF Wikipedia to get a sense of what is contemporary art. Okay, so hopefully everybody will get a better sense of contemporary art after reading this. So I'm going to share the screen here with you guys. Hopefully you guys can see this. Okay, so we're not going to go through the whole definition and everything that Wikipedia says about contemporary art. So here's a couple of interesting examples of contemporary art. So it's really here just to give you guys a sense of what is contemporary art. So according to Wikipedia, it should not be confused with modern art, okay? Because when we hear the word modern, right, we think it's like right here, right now, that it's what we're living through. Modern art is technically up until contemporary art, okay? So contemporary art is the art of today, Wikipedia says. So produced in the second half of the 20th century or in the 21st century. So the century we're in right now, right? So we're the 21st century. That started in 2001. Okay. So contemporary artists work in a globally influenced, culturally diverse, and technologically advanced world. There is a dynamic combination of materials, methods, concepts, and subjects that continue the challenges of boundaries that was already underway in the 20th century. Okay, again, this is all according to Wikipedia. There's a diverse and eclectic contemporary art as a whole is distinguished by the very lack of uniform organizing principle, ideology, or ism. Okay, contemporary art is part of the cultural dialogue that concerns a larger contextual framework, such as personal and cultural identity, family, community, and nationality. Okay. So they're saying here in the vernacular, so common language, modern and contemporary art are synonymous, which of course, like they say, is leads to the confusion of modern art. Okay. So we'll take a quick look as to what modern art is. So here's basically what Wikipedia defines as modern art. So modern art includes artistic work produced during the period extending roughly from the 1860s to the 1970s. So there is a little bit of overlap. Okay, so if you're talking about mid 20th century for the contemporary art, right? So there's what, about 20 years, give or take, of overlap between modern art and contemporary art, okay? And denotes the styles and philosophies of art produced during that era. The term is usually associated with the art in which traditions of the past have been thrown aside. Now I won't go through there's obviously more to that definition, but again, I just want to show a quick overview of what contemporary art is. Okay. So we won't go through that whole blah 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 blah. You guys get the basic idea. So contemporary art is the art that we are producing in our living world, right? So what we're, going through at the moment. Okay, so um, that's the distinction between, contemporary art and modern art. So modern art is something that roughly ended in the 1970s, give or take, and contemporary art took over. Okay, so of course contemporary art might in 100 years, 200 years end up being called something else. Who knows? It still might be called contemporary art, and art that's produced by kids that are now being born, that are now going to be 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. They're going to have their own thing going on, right? And maybe it might continue. Who knows? Excuse me a moment, guys. I just need to cough. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So I'm going to quickly go into, because I'm obviously going to talk about the contemporary art found at the Montreal Museum of Fine Art. So this is going to be a little bit of a museum tour to a certain degree. Okay. So I just need to find the pavilion that it's in. Now, the museum redesigned their website. So it's a little bit tricky for me sometimes to find exactly what I'm looking for. So just give me a second here. So if I can find, should have gotten this planned, but of course I had to get to work and left work much later than I was hoping that I could or should have. And that's always fun when you have to do overtime and then eat, etc. Sorry, guys. Where are you? Okay. No, that's not going to allow me. Come on, where are you? Of course, it's never where you want it to be. Sorry, guys, if it's taken me a little bit longer than I was hoping to get to what I was trying to find here. Okay, this seems to be a little bit more sense. Not quite. Okay, sorry, guys. And I'm going to try to talk a little bit just to not have too much dead air either, because that's not good form when it comes to lives, to have dead air. And I should start doing a little bit more like Melissa and have some commercials and so forth, where I can have a little bit more, time. But she's definitely a lot more organized than I am. Okay, so this is where I need to be. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. So everyone, yeah, everybody redid their websites. Yeah, so thank you very much. So I'm gonna quickly go to, and that's the bad thing is that a lot with the redesign of their website, a lot of the information is lost, but it'll give you guys a basic idea at least of the pavilion. So again, I'm going to share the screen with you guys. This part will be a little bit more quick. Let's see. Yep, there we are. Okay. So this is where you're going to find the contemporary art. Now, the Museum of Fine Arts is there's 5 pavilions to it. Okay, each pavilion has its own theme and timeline. Okay, so the Jean Noël Desmarais Pavilion. Okay, that's where you're gonna find the contemporary art. Okay, And it's basically the main entrance of the pavilion of the museum. Okay, so it's this white section. Okay, that's the main entrance. Okay, and that's that pavilion. Technically, this section here on the side is partially the museum, but there is a little part of it that's also uh, glass eyeglasses. Okay, store. Um, but I think it's mostly like administration, employees, staff rooms, things like that. Okay, and this part is the second most recent addition to the museum. Now, behind this building here, so the red and gray, beige-ish building is the new pavilion, the Pavilion of Peace. Okay, that was built. I think now it's been 2 years, 3 years, something like that. You can't obviously see it from here. Okay, that one is where you now have the European um, artwork. Okay, so each pavilion has its own type of or theme, like I said, of art work. Okay, so the main entrance now is mostly dedicated to just randomness stuff. It is the main entrance. Okay, so there's not a whole lot, but on the third and fourth floor, so you can actually, like in these little portholes, you can actually go into those sections and see outside. It's actually a pretty decent view, but they often use this section as a place to show their temporary exhibits. So right now there's two temporary exhibits that you could technically go into that one. I'll talk about those ones maybe later, but for now that's not the focus. Okay. And for those of you that don't know, basically the other two other pavilions are on the other side of the street. Okay. So you would literally go under the street where the car is. You would go under the street to get to the other section. So they built a tunnel, and it was a big controversy when they did it. So they built a tunnel underneath. So basically, you don't have to go outside to get to the other part. You can literally walk under. So that part that you walk under, okay, would actually be where you would see the contemporary art. Okay, so here's a little bit of some history. So obviously, it says in October 1986, Paul Desmarais, a senior, as well as Bernard and Louise Lamar, along with a few companions, including Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Okay, for those of you who don't know, Pierre Elliott Trudeau was the minister of Quebec, okay, and the father of our current prime minister, Justin Trudeau, okay, and Senator Leo Colbert, sorry, were aboard the Trans-Siberian train traveling from Moscow to the Pacific Ocean, okay. So that's a little bit of history. I won't go through too much of this, okay. So it has 6 floors, okay, including level S2, where, as you can see, it's technically the International Contemporary Art, but you also have the Contemporary Art Square. So those two parts, okay, is where you find the contemporary art, okay? But you also have contemporary art in the other pavilions as well, okay? Now, one of the other pavilions is dedicated to Canadian and Quebec art. So you'll have contemporary art there as well, but it will be done by Canadian and Quebec artists, or it would be theme of Quebec or Canada. Okay, and each floor on each pavilion is a different era. Okay, so you have artwork from prehistory, let's say, or from the 1920s to 1970s or something like that, right? So you on the top floor is the least recent, and the bottom floor is the most recent, so contemporary art. So if ever you do guys go to the Montreal Museum of Art, try to go pavilion by pavilion and from the top floor to the bottom floor to really get a sense of the history of everything. Okay, so hello, Wally. Thank you for being here. So glad that you could join us and enjoy the walk through your neighborhood. I hope that you're listening to while you're walking. And hopefully, I'm not too boring, guys. Hopefully. Okay. And at one point later on in the live stream, I will have you guys join if you want to. Okay. And I know last time when I had before the billions, I had him join in and he viewed the art with me and we criticized it and analyzed it. So if you guys want to do that, maybe put in one in the chat if that's something that you are interested in doing. If not, I don't mind just sitting here and talking. As you guys know, I can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and that's not a problem for me. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share. I have about 6 or 7 different pieces of art in the Contemporary Art Museum, the section. Oh, you're not walking? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Now I understand, Wally. Thank you for clarifying. I thought you were inspiring yourself with the walk and talks that Uncle Stu did and Lashes was doing earlier today. But okay, no worries. But I'm glad you're here either way. So I have maybe 6 or 7 different pieces of art that can be found or were found at the Contemporary Art Pavilion or section of the Montreal Museum of Art. Every few months to a few years, they change things up. So some of them were from when I first started visiting the museum that have now gone into their archives and they brought up some new ones. So you might not necessarily see some of these works anymore at the museum, even though they're still technically there. Okay, so every few years they change things up just to not have anything too boring and to give some of their art a chance to see the light of day as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy the what I'm presenting to you. And again, if you guys have questions, if you guys want to participate, just let me know. Okay. As much as it's enjoyable for me to be here and talk. It's a lot of fun to have you guys participate in as well and ask questions. So don't be afraid to ask questions. I'm all for it. It's definitely, you know, art is meant to be questioned. Okay, there's no one right answer to it, right? So we're gonna again share the screen. Okay. So give me a second here, guys. If oh no, wrong button, of course. No, that's not what I want to do either. She stole my thunder. Get it together. Oh, my brain does not want to work with me today. Okie dokie. So we are going to go with this one. Okay. It's technically a sculpture, and I find this one pretty interesting. Okay. Hopefully, you guys will agree with this. This one, there is some degree of violence to it, but nothing too outwardly, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Yes, Natasha, thank you for being here. More art for sure. And Natasha, since you are from Montreal, it's at the Museum of Montreal, Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. And I know if you want to, I do have a museum pass that allows me to bring somebody with me for free. Hint, hint, wink, wink. You can definitely come with me if ever you want to go see some of this work. As I was saying earlier, some of this work has been put into their stores, so they're not viewable, but some of it you can. Okay, so we're going to look at the first one, okay, which is called Old Enemy, New Victim. Okay, so let's see what this one's about. A little bit of violence to this, but nothing too big. Oh, Natasha, oh, you got the right idea. You can always bribe me with with food. That's always it works. You're my kind of woman. Bonsoir, Peter. J'espère que tout va bien. I'm doing very well, of course, everybody. Peter is speaking French. And for those of you that, of course, are new to this channel, but I know Natasha understood. I know Peter understood. Of course, Wally, Blind Guy, his wife, and Lashes. Of course, you guys, since you've been rocking it with me since day one, you guys understood. But for the one person that is new, of course, bonsoir, comment ça va is French for hello, how are you? I'm good, je vais bien. Okay, so please, you feel free to steal the French, If you guys want to start greeting each other that way, I or me, go ahead. Hello, my God, it's my favorite friend of me. I mean, my favorite person. Oh, Melissa Berrien. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well, and thank you for my second installment of Let's Talk the Arts Come to Life. We're talking about contemporary art, Peter and Melissa, okay? Particularly contemporary art at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, and Natasha had the right idea of bribing me with food to go to it, okay? Because I have a museum pass that allows me to bring somebody with for free. So hey, payment by food is always a good idea with me, okay? Hint, hint, wink, wink, everybody. Of course, I have to say this. I kid YouTube. I kid, wink, wink, non, non. So we're going to go see a few different pieces of work, okay, Peter and Melissa. So we're going to see the first one that you can not find, unfortunately, at the Museum of Fine Arts right now. I believe they have it in storage, if I remember correctly, but maybe they loaned it out to another museum as well. Who knows? Okay. So the first piece that we are going to see that was at one point at the contemporary art section of the Montreal Museum of Fine Art is called an old enemy, new victim. There is some violence to this, guys, but nothing too graphic. I promise you'll be able to handle it. Okay, so don't worry, nothing too horrible. Okay, so it's enough of me talking. I will be quiet for a little bit. I will scroll through the photos so that way you guys can really see it properly. Okay. All right. So that is called, like I said, uh, old enemy. Sorry, let me get the right title here. Old enemy, new victim. Okay. So as you can see, it was made by Tony Mattingly, who was born in Chicago in 1971. Okay. I'll read a little bit of this, okay, but not too much, okay. So for those of you who saw Wealth Management live stream on Sunday, so 2 days ago, you guys saw me speaking about my Flickr account. So this is my Flickr account, okay. And what I was telling him that all this text that you see, this is what I put in, okay. So if ever, I'll try to put this in the chat, but as well as in um, the description of the video. Okay, what I do is I would take a photo of the artwork and then a photo of the description. The photo of this description I eventually delete it, but all that information that's on the description I would then put it on the photo. So that way, if somebody is looking for this, they find everything that's related. So it does take me a certain amount of time to get all that done. And I do it not only for myself because I can stay at home, sit down, read this, take my time, not have 5, 10, 20 people over my shoulder. But as you can see where the blue is, it's an HTML link code that I put as well. So that way, if anybody clicks on the Tony Mattingly, it brings them to, most likely in this case, the Wikipedia page about Tony. Um, the inventory number. So basically, just to give you guys a basic idea, the inventory number at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, first and foremost, goes by year. So they acquired this work in 2007, sorry. They acquired it in the future. And in about 50 years from now, they bought it. No, they bought it in 2007, okay. It was the 260th item that they bought that year, okay. So basically they bought 259 works prior to this one, and 1 and 2, it's probably because there's two independent items. So there's like two parts to this sculpture, essentially. Okay, so that's the way to read the inventory. Now, sometimes they reverse the numbers. So it'll start by the item, like 260, then points 2007. But either way, so if you see the four digits, it's the year, and then whatever else is after is like, okay, the number of artworks that they bought that year. Okay. So, Old Enemy, New Victim is a scene of hate filled violence, tempered only by minimally by the grotesque comedy of a large ape being throttled and attacked by two ravenous beasts. Okay, so we won't read more than that. You guys pretty much can get the basic idea of, you know, what this is. Okay, so I won't go back to it because it's, violent enough, but I will spend some time talking about it. So we'll quickly see. We'll stop sharing. Yes, elbow cough for sure. Um, yeah, wealth engineer. Yeah, sorry. I know I keep getting his name wrong, Wally. I'm horrible with names, Wally. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. King's Way Garden. Thank you for being here. I'm glad to see you. Wealth Talk Production. I see it. We're all in it with our alter egos. I'm glad to see it. Glad that you all are here. So basically, in that piece, okay, there's a lot of different interpretations that can be made of that artwork, right? Obviously, the two smaller apes were very skinny, while as the one being attacked was a lot larger. So it could be speaking about greed, about how some of us unfortunately get canceled due to our gluttonous ways while others are fighting to survive. It could be a message of, I don't know, capitalism and how some of us are engorged and have too much and are dying because of it, or some of us are fighting for the basics, right? How many of us have fought for, just I need a couple of dollars just to pay my light or my rent or whatever, right? So that's one interpretation um, of that painting. Okay. So we'll go to the next one, which is a little bit more interesting. I like it. I was actually, because at the one good thing about the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, and what you'll find with a lot of museum, is that they'll have a lot of their artwork displayed on their website. You often have to look for it. You have to look oftentimes for online collection or just collection, and you'll be able to see not necessarily their entire inventory, but a lot of it. And I had seen this particular one in their online collection. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. It's very different color scheme. Um, you get a sense of where it is without necessarily, like, it gives you just enough details to know what it's talking about without necessarily going through all the details. Okay, so we'll share the screen again, and as previously, I will um, go through it quietly so that way you guys can take your time to see it and then criticize it. And I'll just mute myself as well. Oh, I won't allow me to do that. Okay, so where? Okay, give me a second to find, because there's a few. Oh, here we are. Okay, okay. Sorry, guys. Okay, so that one is called Wild Dogs by Christine Major, who's born in Quebec City in 1966. There's not much information about that, but of course, you have how it was made, what kind of material, the size, etc. Gift of the artist means that the that Christine Major donated the work to the museum itself. Okay, and it was the 20th piece in 2005 that was acquired or being brought into ownership by the Museum of Fine Arts. So, what I find interesting about this is that you can tell these are two hyenas. You get a sense that it's in Africa, but there's not quite enough details as to tell you exactly where. Okay, because this could technically be the middle of Arizona or California. Now, obviously, most of the time, hyenas are an animal that are usually found, of course, in Africa. This is, a typically African animal. But technically, I guess you could bring some hyenas to certain parts of the US or Latin America, and they might be able to survive and manage to live there. Part of it is also abstract because you do have a sense of flowers and grass, but there's no real details to the work. And in fact, the color schemes, like the hyenas, seem to blend into their backgrounds, right? And it gets a sense of, because obviously hyenas do, obviously go after live animals, that they have to blend in as well. Now, they mostly are scavengers, but I do think they also attack. So, but while they're waiting for their prey, they do have to hide themselves. They're not necessarily animals that do well being attacked themselves, right? So they do have to hide. So you get that sense of them blended into their scenes, right? So that's what I really like about it. Now, obviously, on on the internet, a small little image like this, you don't really get a sense of just how beautiful this piece looks in real life. But sorry, excuse me, when you see it in person, is a lot more interesting, a lot more pretty to look at. It really pops. The colors are a lot more bright. Unfortunately, my photo of it doesn't really do it justice, unfortunately. So again, that's Wild Dogs by Christine Major. Okay, so and we're just gonna stop the share. Hello, Kingsway. Yeah, okay, good. You're saying hi to each other. Perfect. So, what do you guys think about these two pieces so far? Do you guys like one more than the other? Do you don't like either one, or contemporary art is not for you at all? I personally like contemporary art much more. I think there's a lot more room for expression and really being able to do whatever you like. I personally like the Wild Dogs the most, but there are other pieces that I enjoy as well when going to visit the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. But that's what's great about the museum, is that there's so many pieces that they have permanently, but they also come up with new exhibits fairly constantly. Now, obviously, because of what's going on since March of last year, there hasn't been as many new events as there once were. Um, but it's definitely one of those museums where if you go at least 3 or 4 times a year, you will see something new. You know what I mean? You can time it. Of course, the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts has a list of all their activities and their new exhibits up to that are coming up in the year, up on their website. So, if you are ever visiting, Montreal Museum, take a look, or even your own museum. Take a time to look to see what kind of exhibits that they're going to have. Okay. So I'm gonna pick out the next one that we're going to um, pick, and this one, hopefully, I'm able to get the right one on my on screen stream yarn. Hopefully, it will allow me to pick the right one. Yeah, okay. So this one is going to be from Kent Monkman, who I showed you guys and talked about last week. So for those of you who weren't there for my live stream last week. This is a Canadian artist that does it's not really controversial um, to a certain degree. I mean, I guess it can be viewed as controversial. He's very critical of Canadian art being presented in a more traditional way. He has a very different perspective of Canadian history and Canadian art, or what's called Canadiana, just like Americana was, reflects modern, American representation in art. Canadiana does the same thing, right? It's Canadian in our lives basically. So he's very critical of how history in particular is presented today. Okay, so now this work isn't as, oh my god, wow, and very shocking. But there are some elements in there that might not necessarily be for everybody. Again, this is one of the pieces. It's a very large piece. So, of course, unfortunately, showing you guys on the internet, it's not going to be as big and as in French, we would say éblouissant, very breathtaking, and but hopefully you guys will like it as much as I do. Okay, I do enjoy Kent Monkman's work, and if you guys are willing, I do recommend that you view my video from last week. But like I said it for 18 plus. It may not be for everybody, okay, but hopefully you guys do watch it. Okay, so this work is by Kent Monkman, named "Not the End of the Trail." Okay, so we're gonna share, and again, gonna go quiet for a few seconds, scroll through the painting so you guys can get a sense of what it looks like, and talk a little bit about it. Okay. Okay, so obviously there's lots of hints for those of you that weren't there last week. Kent Monkman has an alter ego called Miss Chief. Okay, there's a lot longer title to it, but again, I'm trying to be mindful of YouTube's algorithms. And Miss Chief can be seen in this painting. Okay, some of you probably picked up on it already. Okay, um, Kent Monkman is part of the LGBTQ plus community. Okay, for me, I'm saying it because he admits to it, and it is important to his work. He uses that as one of his elements to contest how Canadian's history is presented and discussed. So that's the only reason why I mention it. For me, who you love, I'm not here to judge or criticize. If you guys do want to have that conversation, I don't mind, just not here, just not now. Okay. If you want to have that discussion, let me know. We'll do a collab and a separate video. Okay. So let's see what information we have. There's not too much on this particular one. Okay. But it is, like I said, from Kent Monkman. It's part of a trilogy. So there are two others. I do have photos of those as well. And it was a gift by W. Bruce C. Bailey in honor of Natalie Bondil in 2014, because it starts with 2014. It was the 186th item and the third one. So because it was a trilogy, I imagine the three is because of the two other. So the other two, one of them is probably going to be 186.2, and the other one is going to be 186.1, most likely. Okay, so this art piece, okay, so obviously this would evoke mostly the Rocky Mountains. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, the Rocky Mountains are in the west of Canada. Okay, they're basically what separates Alberta from BC or British Columbia. Okay, And they had to, if you guys don't know Canadian history, when they built the trains, they had to use a lot of Chinese labor to build the trains. Okay, and the trains are also what allowed Canada to become Canada. So of course, a lot of Chinese people lost their lives building uh, Canada. Okay, um, there is, I won't zoom into it, but mischief can be seen here. Of course, mischief is always in a very provocative position, or doing something to shock us, or to catch our eye, etc., to really make us go, oh wow, what is going on here? And of course, you see this very beautiful, I guess it's a sunrise, but it could be a sunset. But I'm saying more sunrise because sunsets tend to be more orange and red. So that's why I get the sense of, but here on the bottom, where you see mischief mourning the death of somebody, or the cancellation, I should say, of somebody, tends to be much more dark, much more somber, because obviously, when somebody gets canceled, it's not necessarily a fun event. And of course, you have somebody here who represents Catholicism or Christianity, who tends to be in a much more Christian father, robes kind of thing. Okay, so you get the sense of the dual world. So you have the Europeans that are invading, bringing Christianity with them, and of course, you have the natives that tend to be much more of quote unquote pagan religions, or non traditional religions for the Europeans, right? Okay, so that's that one. Yes, real talk. You should have been there for my last talk, Melissa Berry, and we went through. And of course, I was about to mention him before the billions. Thank you, William, for being here. Melissa, we were talking about this very same artist called Kent Monkman. Okay. And William, just to catch you up, where I just presented, you missed it, but we were talking about Kent Monkman again briefly. I presented three artworks, one of which was another artwork from Kenneth Monkman in the Contemporary Art Pavilion of the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. So just give me a second, guys. So what I'm gonna do, because as much as, like I said, as much as I love talking, I don't want it to be just me talking, talking, talking. I would like, if you guys want a person to come up, or some people, Melissa, you're more than welcome. Before the billions, of course, you're always welcome to come up. But Lashes, Wally, Kingsway Gardening, Blind Guy, his wife, their life, Kurt Russell, wink, wink, nod, nod, Peter, or I believe we had a new Natasha. Of course, you're always welcome, but we had a new person before. Where did they go? Where did the new person go to? Uh, well, they're not shown in my list anymore for some reason. Okay, I'm not seeing their name anymore, but it's a shame. But anybody's welcome to come up to the panel. Okay, so hopefully somebody joins. Okay, hopefully. Um, but again, I don't want to force you guys. If nobody wants to come up, that's absolutely fine. Okay. So I'm just going to give you guys a second to get yourselves organized. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope that what I'm saying is interesting, guys. Um, the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts is a fairly large museum. I think it's one of the largest in the world. It's definitely one of the largest in Canada, that's for sure. Montreal, we're fairly lucky when it comes to our museums. We have quite a few, although unfortunately, three museums did close down, partially due because of recent events, but not only that. One of them to close was the Fashion Museum. That one, I think it's mostly due mostly to um, basically location, but also lack of advertisement. You rarely saw anybody there. I found it interesting. I think it, to a certain degree, it's shameful that it closed down. But I think a lot of the work from the fashion museum ended up going to the core museum. The other museum to close down was the Stewart Museum, which that one was definitely because of location. It's on Ile Sainte Hélène, okay, and it's a very difficult part of Montreal to get to, and it's not really somewhere where even a native Montrealer like myself is going to really go out there and do it. And especially it tends to be a more historical museum. So who really wants to go out of their way for history? Unfortunately, not too many people. And then the third one, I'm slipping on the name of the museum, but it was a museum devoted to a sisterhood here in Montreal, which helped to found the island of Montreal. And again, just because it was focused a lot on the religious history of Montreal, not a lot of people went to it. And unfortunately, due to recent events, like I said, it had to close down. Now that's the one where what's going to happen to all the artwork that they had there, who knows? Hopefully, another museum like the McCord Museum or the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts will repatriate those artworks, hopefully, but we'll have to see. That one is privately owned, so the city itself isn't technically obligated to do anything with it, but we'll see. What we'll see. Hopefully they did and at least kept some of the items, but we'll see how that one goes. All right, so since nobody seems to want to come up, which is fine, I'm going to continue. I'm going to present a couple more items. Okay, so hopefully all you guys are doing well tonight, and you guys, like Natasha, find this interesting. And I hope I'm not talking too much or not making any sense. Again, guys, if you have questions, if you want me to go back to a photo or something, or want to mention something, please don't hesitate. I do want this to be a conversation. So even if you don't want to come up onto the panel, don't hesitate to comment in the chat. I get it. It's not always fun to come up on the panel and have really not much to say. But even if it's a, hey, I love that painting, or do you have more, or there's something similar, whatever, please feel free to do so in the chat. I get it. The live panels aren't necessarily for everybody all the time. Okay. So we'll go to our next painting. No, not that. We'll go here. We'll do this one. We'll go to that one. Okay. So this is one part of another sculpture, I guess. So this one obviously is supposed to be the bottom part of a larger port. Obviously, it's supposed to be a boat. Okay. So I'm going to show you in a second the other part, but it's literally untitled or schooner and fireworks. Okay. So obviously, this is the schooner. Okay. So a schooner is a type of boat. So I'm going to show you guys the other part to it now. So give me a second, guys. There you go. So this is the other part. Now I like, excuse me, guys. So I like this part for obvious reasons because it's lit up like fireworks. Now, obviously, in the image, you guys can't tell, but these lights are flashing. Okay. So obviously, the blue, I guess, coral, I guess could be the right way, would not always be lit up. So you have other parts here that light up. So that's what we were saying before when we were reading the definition of contemporary art, is that part of contemporary art is that unlike more traditional art where it's really tends to be only painting or only sculptures or only one thing, it tends to combine different things together. So here you're obviously combining the idea of a sculpture with a much more interactive element of the lights flashing, right? So as you can see here as well in the back, you have all these strings to not only hold it up to the ceiling, but to also provide electricity to the parts that are flashing, right? So obviously, at any moment, it's going to look different from another moment. Okay. So again, this is called Untitled officially. So basically, it was done by Sarah Ann Johnson. So she did not title it, but somebody somewhere, either for the museum itself or for other people, they decided to name it Schooner and Fireworks because that does make sense. We saw the other part, which was a boat, a schooner, and that part being the top part that we just saw tends to be much more reminiscent of a firework. You can kind of see why somebody would decided to name it this. Okay. As you can see, excuse me, guys. Oh, no, that's not what I want to do. As you can see, it was donated by Le Cirque du Soleil, the Circus of the Sun. That's what that word means. So now, you guys, if ever you hear somebody say Cirque du Soleil, you now know the official translation of that name of that circus. Cirque du Soleil is Circus of the Sun. And I remember, guys, I mentioned earlier that sometimes they switch. So this item was obtained or acquired. It was given to the museum by the Circus of the Sun in 2016, and it was the 163rd item to be acquired by the museum. So there's 162 other items that they received that year before, and obviously I don't know how many after in 2016, but that's how many they had for sure. Okay, so they for sure received 163 items in 2016. Okay. So it's a nice little cute contemporary art item. Now obviously the previous items that we saw, there's tends to be some meaning to them, some uh sense of what it represents. What this represent, to be honest, I really don't know. I couldn't tell you what oh yeah, it's the fireworks of life and how we fall in love and the explosions and wow, it's so pretty and isn't I really your guess is as good as mine as to what this means. But you do get the sense of, I guess, coral reefs, and the corals themselves are bright and colorful and lit up, but then surrounded is rocks, I guess, maybe how pollution is affecting it, right? But it's also the sense like normally a schooner would be above the corals, but here I guess if you want, it's reversed. The corals are above the schooner, so I guess it's maybe how pollution is messing up the natural relations that we're supposed to have, maybe. You guys tell me what you guys think this means because I have no clue. I really don't know. And I've tried to figure it out for past 2, 3 years. And to be honest, I don't know what this means. I really don't know. And because there's no description, obviously it's impossible for me to be able to at least say, oh yeah, the artist was trying to say this. And okay, I see it. I don't know, guys, but that's the beauty of contemporary art. It's okay not to know what something means. It's okay for you to come up with something that's completely different. Maybe Wally will come up with something completely different from Before the Billions, who will come up with something completely different from Lashes, who will come up with something completely different from Lakita, excuse me, Laquita and Corey, or what have you. And that's what's great about art is that you're not always supposed to come up with the right quote unquote the right answer or the same answer. It's okay to have different answer or to see certain things in a painting or a sculpture, whatever, that nobody else sees. Okay, so that's that. So we'll go back to the chat to see what you guys said, if anything. So yes, Distractions, light. Yes, definitely. Natasha, don't know. Shrug it. Shrug emoji. Don't know. Yeah, nobody knows what this one means, right? I mean, look, it is what it is with this one, and hopefully we could come to an answer when we go there together. Although I don't think this one is in the Contemporary Art Pavilion anymore, unfortunately. But that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Now I do have. Let me see. One, two, three, four. I do have five other pieces that I would like to show. Um, but I see that I've been on already for an hour, even though in my mind I was going to be on for half an hour. Do you guys want me to continue? Do you guys want to see the other pieces, or do you guys said, okay, you know what, we've had enough of you talking, stop, we need to see somebody else? Press a one in the chat, guys, if you want me to continue, if you guys think that this is interesting and that you want me to continue on with this, or if it's just, it's too much, stop talking, she stole my thunder, we've had enough with you and your attitude. All right, so we'll definitely come back to us. She stole my thunder. Okay, good, good. I'm glad you're enjoying it at least, and Natasha. At least I know you guys are gonna hopefully rewatch this and hopefully learn. And like I said, I'm just trying to do a quick intro to this. I'm not by any means an art historian or artist. I just enjoy and I feel that it is important to talk about our local museums and to talk about the art that we find there. And hopefully, Natasha will be able to collab and whether it's on my channel, your channel, if ever you do decide to create one, or we just spend some time at the museum chit chatting and enjoying a lunch together, whatever works. So I guess I'll continue. I'll just take a little bit of a second here to get some. My throat is feeling a bit dry. Give me a second, guys. Let me see if I have something here. You know what? I'll show quickly my 30-second elevator pitch, and you guys will let me know what you think of that. So I'll show that while I get some tea for my throat. It's feeling a bit dry here. So I'll let you guys watch that while I get something to drink. Yes, my channel is focused on art, on museum visits, on movies. And right now I have a series that's going on about our favorite Uncle Stu. I clip all of his funny moments. So if you are in for the comedy, if you are in for the arts, come and see my channel. She stole my thunder.
I love it. I love it. And shout out to you. Shout out to Uncle Stu.
So there we are. That was my elevator pitch and a little bit of a break. I do, of course, in my habit of trying to be a YouTuber and trying to shamelessly sell myself and part of that YouTube street hustle, right? I do have a live video of that as well if you guys want to see that and enjoy my self critic. And I'm all for constructive criticism. So if you guys want to check that one out as well, feel free to do so. So we will continue on our little presentation here. So we will go to the next item. I will show, we'll go with this one here. Now, this one is still at the museum, okay? So we'll get in closer as usual. You guys will. So as you can see, this one is a bronze sculpture where the artist essentially made a face that's not a whole face, right? So obviously you kind of feel like, those hole punchers, or like the ones that does one hole at a time. You kind of feel like the artist took like a hole puncher like that, and just punched holes through a large piece of bronze. Obviously, that's not quite what he did, but I think it is one piece. Now, obviously, in this photo, you can't really tell, but the piece is actually, there's part of it that's inside as well. Okay, so there's more to it inside. Unfortunately, this particular photo doesn't do that justice, so you can't really tell. And on top of that, one of these pieces, like most of them are supposed to be one round hole, but apparently there's one hole that's not quite like the rest. I don't know where that hole is. You know what I mean? And I was here when a tour guide was showing us this piece and was saying like, yeah, there's one piece that she didn't even know where it was either. So if ever you guys do go to the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts and this piece is still there, try find the hole that's different from everything else. Okay. So this one's really interesting that you he created a face, sorry, ahead, without necessarily, again, going into great details, really, showing everything. You don't know what kind of hair, if any, this person has. You can't really tell the gender. um, you know we could assume it's somebody black, excuse me, maybe, but even then, not really, right? The features aren't necessarily of a black person, right? Um, you could argue black just because of the color of the steel or the metal that's used, but even then, is it really a representation of that person's ethnicity, or just coincidence that the artist decided to use a darker material, right? But even with the generalities of it, even with the non details, you can still see the shape of their chin, the general shape of their lips, the nose. You get the eyes here on the other side as well. You get a sense of their hair. Now, what this part is, I mean, it could be a fancy headphone, or maybe earmuffs or something like that, or a kind of hat, maybe, who knows. But you also get a sense of, here's another face as well, right? So you got an ear, a nose here, an eye, but no mouth, right? So you get that sense of, I don't know if you guys watched the movie Chronicles of Riddick, where the main villain has this kind of helmet with two faces on the side. And you get that, I get that sense of that same kind of helmet. So you have the main face in front, but then two faces on the side, right? So that could be that kind of idea where one person is several things at the same time, right? They have several faces, right? They have the public face that they show to most people, and then they have other faces that maybe they only show to, maybe of a loved one or co-worker or what have you. So this top part would be maybe the hairs combining or the brains combining, and all that coming together, right? So that could be a particular interpretation of this work. So this one is called Sharon by Tony Cragg, okay, who was born in Liverpool in 1949. So this one has a little bit more information. Sorry, my brain still doesn't want to work. It was acquired in 2018, and it was the 311th item that was brought into the collection of the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. So we'll go into a little bit of the description here. I'll just randomly, I'll start here. On one level, the sculpture is combined representation of the faces of three members of Craig's team. So you see, I was right to interpret it that it was multiple faces bound together in the shared skin of the continuous perforated bronze on another. Sharon is a figuration of Craig's interrogation of the porousness of human thought. Okay, so that's his thought of his work and how he wanted what he wanted to represent with this particular piece. Okay, so Sharon is the name of this piece made by Tony Cragg. Okay, so that's that, and we'll just go. There's this. Yes, Melissa, definitely a very interesting piece, and I'm glad that you like it. Yes, I'm a bit. I don't know. The past couple days, I'll be honest. I've been feeling. That's why I've been coughing a lot tonight. But I haven't been feeling. I don't know. Like I don't know if that happens where you guys are in the U.S. But whenever the season starts to change, I start getting a little bit sick. My body's like, I don't think we'll make it through this winter. You have to move. No, but I'll be fine. I've been feeling a bit down. Not down as in bad feelings, but down as in under the weather. But I will push through and I will make it through. And again, I will put the link if anybody wants to come up. If you want to, no pressure. Again, please, no pressure. If you really don't want to come up on the panel, don't feel obliged. If you simply have a question and you don't really feel like, okay, this is something that you feel comfortable coming up on the panel, feel free, guys, to put it in the chat. I'm all ears. I have no problem with nobody coming up and have nothing to say. If you guys are simply sitting here and enjoying what I have to say about this, I'm but more than happy to talk and talk and talk and talk. That's absolutely fine with me. Okay, guys. So don't feel like you need to participate. Again, if the only support that you're willing and able to give me tonight is to quietly listen, then I'm very grateful for that. I appreciate you guys even being here. Okay. Because I know that you guys could easily be doing anything at this point. There's nothing obliging you guys from being here. So, again, thank you for taking the time out of your night to spend some time with me. So, I'm again just grateful for you guys being here in any capacity, even if it's just, like I said, quietly listening. Okay. So I will have one, two, four more pieces to talk about. I'll try to do it relatively quick because I don't want to abuse of your kindness and being here. I know you guys have other things to do. It is, almost 11 o'clock at night as well, and some of us have to work. So I don't want to, impose myself on your night as well. So we'll go to another piece. This one as well. Let me make sure I have the right one. Okay, yeah, that one. Okay, so this is another piece from Kent Monkman. Again, I did have his piece, not his piece. I had an entire video on his works last week. That one, like I said, is an 18 over video because his work tends to be a little bit, a little bit more controversial, but I like it. It's the kind of controversies that I enjoy. So hopefully you guys will like this piece. This piece is absolutely neutral. There's no offensive elements to it, and hopefully you guys will like it as much as I do. So let me make sure I get the right one. So, okay, yeah, that one. Okay. So again, we'll go through it. So again, this one is from Kent Monkman called a Théâtre de Cristal. Théâtre de cristal. So again, I always try to integrate some little bit of French, guys. So that is French for theater of crystal. Okay. So again, if you guys want to show off to your friends about how fancy pantsy you are, because I know all of you are fancy pantsy if you're listening to me, you're going to be able to use the words théâtre de cristal, théâtre de cristal, crystal theater. Okay. Now, what I mentioned earlier is, of course, Kent Monkman is part of the LGBTQ plus community. He is mischief. Mischief is him. Okay. He uses this alter ego, like I said, to criticize how Canadian history is often represented and to really show a different light of how Canadians look at ourselves and our own history. Now, this one in particular, as there's a reason why it's so different from his work. Most of the time, he does paintings that are historical nature. This one is, of course, not really a sculpture, but much more of an installation. Okay, you obviously have the crystal light here. There does sense to have the sense of a teepee. Okay, so a Native American house or type of Native American house, because there's different types, guys. I don't know if you guys know this. Most of us, when we think of a Native American house, we think of the teepees, but that's only one type of Native American houses. I do recommend that you guys look it up. There are different kinds, okay? And teepees will be designed slightly differently dependent on what Native American tribe that you have. And of course, you have I assume it's a bear pelt at the bottom. Okay. Now, there's a reason why this one is so different. It was part of another installation where Kent Monkman got married to Jean Paul Gaultier, the fashion designer. Okay, so Gaultier, I obviously pronounced it the quote unquote correct French way. So Gaultier. Okay, let me find his name. Okay, yeah, here it is. So this guy here. Okay, what's it? I'm highlighted. Oh, of course it has to do that. There we are. Okay, so this guy here, Jean Paul Gaultier. Okay, they got married. Now it was much more of a entertaining ceremony, so it wasn't an actual legal marriage. Okay, but again, it was part of that sense of Jean Paul Gaultier had a an exhibit at the Montreal Museum called Love is Love. I do have those photos as well. So if you guys want to see those ones, I can do either a separate video for that, or you guys can go search on my Flickr for Love is Love and you'll find that exhibit as well. Okay. So that wedding ceremony was a part of the inauguration celebrations for that exhibit. Okay. So it was this whole live event. From what I heard, it was very interesting and very beautiful. And Kent Monkman went as Miss Chief. Okay. I could look it up later on and show you guys. Hopefully, there is something I can find and show you of that event. But apparently, from what I heard and the few things that I saw, it was very beautiful and really interesting. So, this one, as you can see, it's referred to as a champagne of teepees. Okay, so a much more fancy pantsy teepee. Definitely not the kind of teepee that you would be living in. And as some of us would know, some of our families would have this teepee covered in plastic because we would not want this to be ruined. Okay, this is not the teepee that you let your luscious. You're not going to let your little boys running through this teepee. This is not this teepee is not for your kids. Okay. Especially with them, with what Adrian dumping sand on your little one. I don't think you want him to be playing around this teepee. So this is not the kind of teepee that you'd be living in on and regular everyday use. So that's kind of the history behind this. So again, just to show that um, there's a certain variety to why contemporary art is created, right? So as contrast to the one we saw before, where we're all like, "What? What does this mean? What? Why did you do this?" While as this one was really created for a special event and kind of was a play on what is traditionally presented, right? When I said the word teepee, we all had a very specific image in our head of what that looked like. And this was not it, right? This is not what we think of when we think of teepees, right? It's not the same thing. There is obviously a disconnect there, right? This is not something that you're going to find in a quote unquote traditional native home, right? And obviously it's supposed to be a little bit of that criticism of how Native American life has changed, and it was modernized and Europeanized and transformed into something different, but it still reflects what the life once was for so many Native Americans, right? So that's that one. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to come back to you guys and see what you guys are talking about. Hello, buenos días, Mrs. B. Finesse. ¿Cómo estás? Todo bien y tú? I hope you're doing very well, Mrs. B. I don't know how much of what you caught of what I said, but tonight I'm talking about the Contemporary Art Pavilion or section of the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. So I've been going through some different pieces that have been found in that section and are still found in that section. Okay. The artwork that I just showed was from an artist called Kent Monkman, who I did have a live stream about last week. So that was that live that's 18 plus, and it's not an accident because that artist tends to have much more unique and different artwork that's shows a little bit of let's say adult content. Okay, so it may not be for you, Mrs. Finesse. It may be for you. I don't know. I'm not here to judge, but be forewarned. If you do watch that video, you may not necessarily want your kids around. Okay, so it's definitely not for 5 year olds. Okay, maybe if you have I don't know how old. I think you're still in education, if I remember correctly. If your kids are the young kids, you might not necessarily want to show them, but if your kids are 16, 17, 18, maybe, but maybe view it before you show it to your kids. Okay, so we're gonna have three other items. After that, I will call it a day. Okay, because again, I don't want to abuse of your time, and I see that it's getting fairly late. It's almost 11, and I know for a lot of you guys, you have your own live streams to prepare for tomorrow. I believe the probably before the villains, which is why he's probably not here. Is probably doing a live himself as well right now, because I know normally he would have been up on the panel by now. So I'm not going to abuse too much of your time, and hopefully, Mrs. B, watch what you've missed on the replay. If not, I'm glad you're here and that you're supporting me, even if it's just for a few minutes. And the same goes for everybody else. I'm glad that you guys are here and spending some time with me, even if it's just a couple of minutes. So thank you for supporting me, guys, and for being here and for being part of my 261 subscribers. Yay for me. I'll take my 261 any day of the week. Okay? I love all of my little freedom fries, even if there's 261 of you. I'm glad for every one of you that are here. Okay? So three more. I'll try to push through this, guys. And hopefully, like I said, that you guys find this interesting and that you guys want to stay here, hopefully. And I'm not boring you guys to death with me talking and talking and talking. All right? So let's get going and we'll share the screen with the last three items that we have. My random singing. All right, so we'll go to this one here. Hopefully you guys like this one. All right. So I'm sure you guys noticed a couple of things with this one. So it is called Untitled Number 825, but as the other untitled item, somebody at some point noticed the things that you guys probably noticed and called it the three peacocks. Okay, so I will go back to it in a second. By Peter Coyne. Okay, he was born in Oklahoma City, 1953. As I indicated earlier, I don't know if you saw that, Mrs. B. Finesse, or not. The inventory number 2015 is the year. So this item was gifted to to the museum in 2015, and it's the 222nd item that they have now in that they obtained in their inventory in the year of 2015. So they have 221 other items that they received before, and this is the 222nd. Now, how many they got after? Unfortunately, I have no way of finding out. I no, I'm not sure if they may have a publicly available listing of all of their inventory. I know technically they do have a library and archive center, but I believe you have to be a student in related fields, so art history, history, that kind of thing, in order to have access. Now, they sometimes make exceptions, uh, for people to be allowed, but again, you really have to have a justifiable reason to be able to go into the library of the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. So I think me being curious is not going to be a valid enough reason, but I would like to have access to their full inventory list, just not only to see, because I do have quite a lot of photos, just to see how many of them I actually have. But I doubt that I have. I think if I remember correctly, they have something like 4,000 items. I think maybe I have 1,000 if I'm lucky in photos, if I'm lucky at that. Okay, so I highly doubt that I photographed um, more than a quarter of all of their. I think even 4,000 probably is the wrong number. Okay. So, as you guys probably noticed, there's obviously one peacock right here. Okay. There's two others apparently somewhere. Okay. Now, obviously, in this angle, it might be on the other side, but you guys probably saw this nice little peacock right here on the top there. Now, this is actual wax that the artist used and had to do it in a certain way, because obviously wax can be dangerous by the fumes or by the heat temperatures, because obviously for it to drip down, it has to be heated at a certain temperature, right? So that can be uh, you know very dangerous. Of course, like we had said, again, Mrs. B, I'm not sure if you were there for that. I don't think you were. um, Contemporary art is often not just one particular medium, right? So it's not just painting, it's not just sculpture, it's can more often than not be a whole multitude of elements and types of material that's involved. So as you can see here, the artist used wax, pigment, embellished ribbon, paper, silk, sand, steel cage, steel chain, and wire, a whole bunch of other different things too, create this one piece, right? So imagine the work to find all the material, put it together, and decide, okay, this is what I want it to look like, right? Now you have the dimensions in obviously both inches and centimeters. Just a second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so obviously, you know, in the photo here, you can't really tell that this sculpture is that big, right? Because obviously you guys, are seeing this little square of an image, right? But it is very big, and it does have a very unique smell. Okay, I don't know if you guys have ever been to a museum. There's certain museums like it's it's a very unique smell. And I visited this museum often enough with this sculpture there that I can probably smell when it's around before I can even see it. Okay. And you'll um, with paintings that are made out of acrylic paint, it also has a very unique smell to it. So if you have a lot of paintings that have use a lot of acrylic paint, there's going to be a unique smell to it as well. I like the smell personally. I find it very distinctive, and it's like it has an air of class to it almost to some degree, because to me now, whenever I smell it, it's like I smell the museum, you know what I mean? So for me, it's very fancy. You know what I mean? But hey, that's just me and my, maybe there's I think Mrs. B, you have some background in psychology. There might be a psychological reason for that, I don't know, but hey, I guess that could be a discussion for later tonight if you really want to. Okay, so obviously, what does this painting mean? Okay, now to me, it's difficult to discern a particular meaning, right? Because you have this peacock that's covered in wax, that's on top of a cage. Normally, when you think of a bird, the bird is inside the cage and it's trapped. But here you have it on top of the cage. Technically, I'm imagining if this was a real, let's pretend like it's a real bird. Once the wax started dripping, what was stopping it from flying away? You know what I mean? And I can't really see. I mean, its feet aren't really don't seem to be attached, right? So it could have flown off, right? So what was keeping that peacock here, right? And of course, a peacock, what makes a peacock is, of course, its feathers out, all like display. Now obviously that's when the bird is angry usually, or when it's trying to impress the female, right? So the feathers here are weighed down by the wax, right? So I mean, is this the corruption of nature by man? Because wax isn't, from what I understand, isn't necessarily a natural item, right? You can't go to a wax farm and just pick it, right? It has to be created by man, right? By human beings. And obviously, a cage is something that is also man made to trap a bird, right? So, is that the trappings and destruction of nature? Um, there is a certain amount. I don't know. Do you guys find it beautiful? I still, even though it's really weird and very different to look at, I still see some beauty to it. It's still very, like, you get a sense of flowers and plants and almost a bouquet that you would see, or a centerpiece at a wedding. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm making sense. Like, I don't know, maybe you guys disagree with me, but I still see some, like, it almost looks delicate to me. You know what I mean? Um, it kind of looks as well, the when you have a cake and you have that the fondant, the part that, like, the liquid stuff that goes on top of the cake, it almost feels like that to a certain degree. Like, it looks edible, it looks delicate. Like, if you touched this part here, that little flower here, if you touch this section here, like, it feels like it would break in the weight of your hands. Like, I doubt that it would actually if you touched it, but it almost feels like it would be, like, easily broken. So anyways, that's my thought on this particular one. Hopefully you guys have been chatting away in in the chat, so we'll stop that and we'll close it. Let's see. Good, glad to see that you're still with me here. Okay, so the chat's a little bit quiet, but that's absolutely fine. I get that it's 11:05 and talking about art might not be for everybody. So we'll show our last two. I'll try to make it quick, Lashes. I know you probably want to get to bed and do other things, so I won't keep you too much longer. But Lashes, Mrs. B, Melissa, anybody else, if you guys are still here, if you guys need to step away, feel free to do so. This video will be up for replay. So again, don't feel forced to stay here. I don't want to impose myself on you guys. I know all of you guys have kids, you have husbands, you have other things to be doing. Either way, I'm glad that you guys spent some time with me and allowing me this opportunity to explain arts. But again, you guys can always catch me on the replay if you do need to step away. Okay. So the last two pieces we will talk about tonight. So we have The Wanderer by Tony Matali. Okay, The Wanderer. So, yeah, this guy here. All right. So with this is obviously a sculpture, but you have obviously this a man who seems to be going on an adventure of some kind, but he doesn't seem to be wearing anything in particular that's appropriate, right? I'm thinking, okay, he seems to be on the top of a mountain or the top of, like would you go hiking on the top of a mountain with what he's wearing alone? His bag also seems to, well, it's a hat, you know. He doesn't have seem to have any supplies like food or water. He does have a rope and he does have this staff, but I wouldn't limit myself to that, right? His shoes don't seem to be the right kinds of shoes. As you can see here, he has a hole in his sock too, right? So, I mean, this is not the kind of clothing and situation that would be ideal for a long mountain climb, but maybe that's part of the adventure, right? Having very little and you're going out there into the world, and it you have to, you're surviving on your own capacity, right? You're finding food and water where you can. You're finding shelter how and where you can, and of course there's a proverbial monkey on the back here, right, on his shoulder. So does this symbolize the burden that we all have in the adventure of life, right? And that we're all not guaranteed to survive. His head also seems quite bigger than his body. This side of what would be his right and our left seems a lot smaller than the left side of his body, right? So is that due to just perspective? Is that due to, malnutrition? Maybe he hasn't eaten that much, in his adventures. And of course, you have one, maybe two other monkeys keeping him company during his travel, right? And he does seem to be looking up and forward, like if there's more to come, perhaps. So, what could all of this mean, right? So, we're going to see what kind of, we're going to have to go down a little bit to see what's going on with the artist. So, called The Wanderer. There's not a whole lot, so a lot of the interpretation is up to you and me to do. And again, the artist uses a lot of different material to create the piece of work. So fiberglass silicone, I imagine, to create the man. And it was acquired in 2014. It was the 184th item, and there's 9 different elements to this artwork. Okay, so I imagine they're counting, like, let's say the rope is 1, the hat is 2, the 2 monkeys is 4, 5, etc., etc. Right? So this one was interesting to see, and kind of get that impression of, like, what does it mean? Where is he going? What, is this person a real person? Is he based on? Is this the artist, sort of like what Kent Monkman does? Is the artist putting himself into the work, or is this just a random person? Maybe it's a friend of the artist that's always on an adventure. Who knows, right? So again, your guess is as good as mine as to what does this mean, right? Where's the artist going with this? Okay. So that's that for that particular item. And we're going to end on another artist that I find fairly interesting. Um, This one is going to be very different, and typically the kind of artwork in the contemporary art world that people say they either love it or they hate it, which is very typical of contemporary art. Okay, so it's simply called The Shepherd. I always mispronounce this guy's last name, and you guys will see why. It's David Achmej, but again, I'm I'm probably mispronouncing his name. And if he hears this, I'm sorry, sir. I keep hearing how your name is spelled pronounced, and I never get it right, no matter what. Um, but hopefully, you guys like it. This is another piece that I do enjoy. Um, but it's very unique, very different. There is another piece of the artist at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, and he does have a particular section devoted to him at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts in Quebec City. Okay, so hopefully you guys like this. And oh, I didn't see Melissa had said good night, so good night to her, and I hope she had enjoyed this. So, hopefully you guys like this. This is going to be my last piece, and after that I will say my good nights to everybody, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed this talk. So this is going to be my last showing with you guys. Oh, we have to share it before I go to it. All right, so yeah, so that's David Achmej. Okay, as you can see, this is how his name is spelled, which is why I never know how to pronounce it. I try my best, folks. I'm not a miracle worker. So he was born in Montreal. So another, again, I always have to have the emphasis on my Montreal artists and my fellow Canadians. So as usual, the artwork is using different types of materials, so foam, plywood, wood, etc., etc. Okay. So in the description, you see the shepherd is a colossal woodland body that is also a habitat for hidden micro worlds, mirrored staircases, niches, and holes that appear to have entrails, etc., etc. Okay, so with David's work, a lot of it is these what if? What if something in humans' evolution had changed? What if something had been done differently? Because you do get a sense that this is a human form, man. This is most likely a guy, but could be a girl, who knows, right? But it's a human being nonetheless. You have the hand here, you have the face, you have the body, right? The legs, the feet, the other arm, but it obviously doesn't look totally human, right? How many fingers are there? There seems to be four. Is there a thumb? Right. So obviously, as he was saying, there's a mirror. There's a world within a world. Right. So you see all these little, sections. Obviously, the skin is more fur. Here, you tend to seem to have crystals or rocks for skin here as well. Right. So you get the sense that although you're dealing with a human being, you're not dealing with something that this is not how people look. You know what I mean? Um, this is not normal for us, right? We do not see ourselves as this. So for David, that's what he questions is that what if the world was different? How would it be different? Could this have been our future if one thing had been done differently, right? Sort of that sense of that question of evolution and what could be brought forth if. Um, So that's the beauty of contemporary art, right? Is that space, like I said, for questions, for the what ifs, for the hey, let's think of the world differently. So a lot of the contemporary art was created because artists were tired of being told, no, you must create art this way. This is the only good way to create art. Is you have to paint the trees as they are. You have to paint the flowers as they are. You have to paint the mountain as it is. Exactly. You know what I mean? With contemporary art, they're like, no, take impressionism, right? It's really again the sense of what does that mountain mean to me. So yes, you're still going to see a mountain, but it's the elements of the mountain that the artist wants to capture, that the painting is going to be talking about. That's what's called impressionism, right? It's the impression of the mountain for that artist that they're painting. So that's why you can have two exact same mountains in impressionism being painted, but it ends up being with two very different results. So you ask a contemporary artist, what if evolution was done differently? You're going to have something like this by David Admej, right? That's going to look like this, but for another artist, you're not even talking about human beings anymore. It might be, humans are birds, birds are humans. You know what I mean? It could look completely different because you're really leaving it to people's imagination. So with David's work, it's a lot of those what ifs, and I do like the fact because of the mirrors, as you can see, it glistens in the room, and you can in some of the angles, you see the floor in the crystals. And I think that I do have a couple other pictures where you see the paintings in the other room. And obviously, that's still very interesting to me. So, yeah, so you're very gifted. Thank you for sharing that. Very nice of you to say, Lashes. I hope that you guys enjoyed this talk with me today. So I won't keep you guys up for much longer. I will share in at least as a quote unquote reward for Lashes for being here. I will share the link to see this particular um, page that I have. It's going to have all of the photos that you saw tonight and much, much more. Okay. I will try to also add it later on to this video, okay, so that people who come to see this on the replay will be able to watch it later on. So I don't know if Mrs. B, if you're still here. If you are, thank you for being here. Thank you, Lashes, for your being here as well and for commenting during my chatting away. I hope again I wasn't too boring. I know you're gone, Melissa Berrien, but thank you for stopping by. It was very nice of you to spend even a few minutes with me. Merci, Natasha Vincent. Thank you, Natasha Vincent, for being here. Thank you, Before the Billions, for stopping by. I know that you had to go probably to do your own live, but thank you for stopping by. Kurt Russell, wink, wink, nod, nod. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Kingsway Gardening, for being here as well. Just give me a moment, guys. Thank you, Wealth Talk Production, aka Wally, for being here as well. Thank you, Peter at Investor M, for stopping by and giving me some of your time. Again, even if it's just for a few minutes, even if it's just to say hi, I'm glad that you guys are here. Thank you, Blind Guy, his wife, their life, for stopping by. If you're not here, great, doesn't matter. It's okay. Still love you. But if you are here, I hope that you enjoyed this talk. And oh, there's the new girl. Oh, just give me a moment, guys. My throat does not want to cooperate with me. Sorry about that, guys. Shakila's World, thank you for being here. And I hope that this isn't going to be the last time I see you here with me. So thank you guys for spending the night with me, spending a couple hours talking about art. I hope this was enjoyable. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope that you guys spent a few minutes talking and not talk well talking about the art that I presented, but looking at the photos that I took. Yes, those are my photos that I took, and I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. And if you want to watch the replay, comment. Do let me know, guys, if you want me to continue the series. If you want me to continue the series, maybe on a different date and time, because I know maybe 9:30 at night to talk about art may not necessarily be the best of ideas. So if you guys have criticism, could be constructive, please. But I'm all ears. Please let me know if there's something you guys want me to do differently, or if you're happy of having a Wednesday late night talk talking about art. Okay. I will schedule another one later on, so keep your eyes open, guys. Okay, and you guys know how I end the stream. Please make sure, if there's somebody that you haven't said I love you to, or that you haven't hugged in a while, go take that time now to do it. You never know if it might be your last opportunity to do so. And make sure, again, getting used to doing this, guys. This is new for me, so I know it's a bit annoying. I'm not used to it myself either. But if you guys found this interesting, please tip the teacher. Send me a few French fries at my PayPal account. Again, it's all voluntary. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it's definitely appreciated. Like, comment, subscribe is also just as important as sending me French fries, guys. Okay? I appreciate any support that you can show me or muster, whether it's being in this live, chatting away, whether it's being on my panel, or simply watching the replay. Thank you, guys. Have a great night. Merci beaucoup. Bonsoir. And be nice to each other, guys, okay? Every once in a while. Love y'all.